and welcome to this workshop on pre-commercial procurement in Horizon Europe. My name is Nicole Wies. I'm national contact point in Switzerland and also partner of the Health NCP-Net 3.0 project. And together with my colleague Sascha Hugentobler, we will be your guide for the next 2 hours. And if I can switch my slides. Oh. Sorry for this short technical problem. Let's start again. Welcome to this workshop. Please, this is a Teams webinar. Please switch your camera off and mute your microphone when you are not asked to speak. Especially if you are if you don't want to be recorded. And ask questions during this webinar. And for this, use the Q&A for technical questions, questions related to the PCP instrument or the Horizon Health topic we will discuss today, and use the chat for organizational questions. We have an exciting program that awaits us. And in the next 2 hours, we will first go through the PCP instrument, the presentation of the Horizon Health topic that is currently open, and then the funding conditions, eligibility rules, and evaluation criteria. Then you have the opportunity to ask questions, not on Slido like said in the agenda, but in Teams in the Q&A channel. After a short break, we will go over to presentations from partners and coordinators in different successful PCP projects. And we will also have the experience of an evaluator. Will tell us what you have to look at and how proposals are evaluated. And then we will finish with a panel discussion with all speakers. The panel will be moderated by my colleague Sascha. Now, this meeting is organized by the Health NCP-Net 3.0 project. You see here screenshot of our web page, and why I am showing you this. It is because we have different tools and resources that are interesting for NCP, but not only, also for researchers, external stakeholders. We offer, for instance, Q&A documents, which we compile after official info days organized by the European Commission and important events. We also have annotated templates, such as on the left, you see the annotated template on clinical studies. We also have guiding documents, such as guidelines for pitching or for partner search, tips and tricks how to find partners and consortia. We offer also trainings and webinars, such as the one you are in today. And now I would like you in the audience to answer a question. Please go to Slido either on the computer or on your cell phone, and you have the QR code and the link, the code to log in, and please answer in which country you are located. For the moment, mostly member states, but also some others. I will let it open a few seconds more. Okay, thank you for your answers. It's a nice representation of European countries. Welcome to all of you. And let's switch to the next question. I would like to know where you are working, in which kind of entity. I'm happy to see many NCP colleagues, but also others working in the academic sector, hospitals, private sector, but also public procurement entities, which are specifically targeted today, and people from ministries. Thank you for your answers. And now I will give the word to Live Boss and Anapia Papageorgiou, both policy officers for innovation at the European Commission, at the Director General for Research and Innovation, and to Sami Betish, who is policy officer at the Health and Digital Executive Agency, who will jointly show us what are the rules of the game, present the topics, and then funding condition, eligibility, and evaluation criteria.
Welcome to all of you. My name is Lieve Bos, and I will explain to you the first part about the rules of the game of the PCP instrument. So we can start immediately with the next slide. First of all, eligibility criteria. please do check that you meet the eligibility criteria when you submit a proposal, because it's always very sad when people have done all the work to submit a complete proposal, but then it already fails at the eligibility stage, and we cannot even send the proposal for real evaluation. So please ensure that you have minimum 2 entities participating in the project, which are public procurers from 2 different member states or countries associated to the Horizon Europe program, and that one of them is coming from a member state. So these are the minimum requirements. Of course, you can have more procurers, and there can also be in the additional procurers other types of procurers that are not public, can be private procurers, can be non-governmental organizations and so on, but make sure that you have the minimum 2 public procurers, right? And don't forget to tick the box in the application form that asks you to confirm this. And who are public procurers? Well, in the healthcare sector, it was already many of the people who were listed on the previous screen. So those who have ticked that they are a public procurer, of course, but in fact, also public hospitals are public procurers. Research organizations are also public procurers, so university hospitals or university departments working on healthcare are in fact also public procurers in the healthcare sector. Healthcare quality institutes and so on, ministries of health. So there are many different types of public procurers in the healthcare sector that may be looking for new innovative solutions to address challenges in their area, and so they can be part of this minimum set of 2 procurers, public procurers that we need in a project. Who cannot be in a proposal, please also pay attention to that. So basically anybody can be in a proposal as beneficiary except suppliers of the potential solutions that the procurement will be looking for. But other type of entities that want to help the procurers to prepare the procurement, do dissemination or other type of activities, that's all fine. If we go to the next slide, what type of activities are eligible? Quick reminder, because we come back to that later in the more practical questions. Yes, we do co-finance all activities to prepare, run the procurement, and afterwards do any activities that are still needed after the procurement. We come back to that later. But also the actual procurement itself, the procurement cost as well. So what do we mean by preparing the procurement? Every project goes through a preparation stage, let's call it, where they are going to prepare the procurement, doing an open market consultation with potential providers to check whether what they want to procure is possible for the market to deliver or not, and to make sure they formulate their requirements in a way that is feasible, and that the budget is distributed in a way that is feasible, and that all the other requirements that they want to enforce in the procurement are making sense. Could be also legal requirements that are consulted during an open market consultation. And then they write tender documents and agree on how they're going to do, finally confirm how they're going to do the procurement together. The execution stage is when the procurement starts happening, when they start buying, in this case for PCP projects, research and development services. And this, for this particular topic in health, it can include not only the research, development, testing of solutions, but also deployment of tested solutions. And we will come to that in the next slide on how this can be done. And in terms of other activities, can be that after procurement or during, you also need or want to do other activities like contributing to standardization, regulation, certification, training of procurers or users. Anything that is needed to bring the solutions to the market can also be covered in these activities surrounding the procurement. And you see that nicely also on the next slide. So the blue part is the procurement cost that we co-finance, and the green part is everything surrounding it that is needed to prepare, manage, products make it to the market and are getting deployed. And all of it is co-financed at the 100% funding rate of the Horizon Europe program. So also, if you decide to do deployment of solutions during the project, this will be included in the cost.
Problème. J'entends plus. T'entends, toi?
You will have money from the Commission before you have to start all these activities, both the preparation activities and the procurement. If we continue to the next slide, we go
I'll
more.
Sorry, Liva, just a second, because
detail.
sometimes your volume cut out. So maybe if you cut your camera, we can spare some bandwidth. Sorry.
Okay, yes, the camera is out. I hope that is better.
So far, so good.
Yes. So what are the possible ways of doing this deployment? Because that's the new thing in this call compared to previous calls, right? The call topic requires that either first option, you deploy already solutions during the PCP project. Or second option, you prepare during the project for deploying the solutions after the project. What does it mean? The first options, deploying during the project, is that minimum one solution is being deployed. There have been cases already in the past where this has been done in pre-commercial procurement projects, where procurers sometimes decide that all the resulting solutions that make it until the last testing phase will be deployed. They simply, for example, in software procurements, want to have all the software that comes out of the procurement because they think they can use it all. Good. Or they think that one solution can probably not meet my procurement needs. It's likely that I need a combination of solutions because they tackle things from different angles, and to cover all the possible scenarios that I need to cover, I will need multiple of them in any case. But there are also cases where procurers have said, no, we only want to buy one solution, the best one that comes out of the whole project and the last testing phase. That's up to the procurers to decide. What do you need to do minimum if you choose for this first option, deploying during the project? Yeah, you need to foresee the budget in the budget table to deploy those solutions. Otherwise, we cannot reimburse you for that. And you need to describe, therefore, also in the proposal, how you plan to tackle this deployment. Will it be deployment of all solutions or only the best one that you think? Will it be all procurers that will deploying solutions or only some of them in some countries? What concrete actions or tasks do you plan to do during this project to make this deployment happen? So just like for the other activities that you do in the project, you describe for the deployment the budget and the description of how you're going to tackle it. And yeah, please also ensure that if there are procurers that will buy the solutions during the project, that they have tested also the solutions during the project so that they are, sure about what they're going to buy is the right thing. Option 2, you're not going to deploy during the project, but after the project. What do you then need to do according to the call text? Explain in the proposal that you have this intention to deploy. Okay, it will not be during the project, but after. So give some explanation about that. Which procurers in the project are planning to deploy how many solutions after the project and so on? By when? Will it be right after the project, you think, or will you still need to wait for other things to happen? It depends on standardization on other things. Who knows? Up to you. You know the context. But foresee in your project proposal a description of how you see this deployment happening, and foresee also a specific task and deliverable to really prepare this follow-up procurement. Because then we can also fund that at 100%, right? So you can do again an open market consultation after the pre-commercial procurement will be finished. If that is needed, if you're not going to use the negotiated procedure without publication for deployment and you need another one where you need to do an open procurement anyway, then it makes sense to consult the market again. And you can also prepare your tender specs already so that you are really ready after the PCP project is finished to start procuring. And then you don't need additional budget from anywhere else anymore to do all this preparation work. What do you need to buy? it's up to you to decide. We are not telling you what you need to buy. So it's up to the procurers to decide, do they want to buy only the final solutions that come out of the pre-commercial procurement, the ones that are really have been field tested in what we normally call the phase 3, or some procurers also want to buy intermediate results like prototypes that have only been lab tested already after phase 2, because not all the vendors that make it to phase 2 will also make it to phase 3. So think about that when you decide what you want to buy and how many copies of each of these things you want to buy for which procurers and for how long you want to buy it. If it's a physical product, you buy it once and can use it forever. But if it's something else, for example, a software or something that comes with licenses, you typically need to say for how many years, for example, you want to have this license to be able to continue to use it. There's no requirement in the context that you have to buy large volumes of solutions. In fact, in some cases, if you buy during the pre-commercial procurement, for example, it's not even possible to buy large commercial volumes of solutions. So this is up to you to decide, and depending on the scenario, use the correct one to buy small volumes or large volumes. We'll come back to it more. Keep in mind that budgets that you put in the proposal about all these deployments and about all other activities in a proposal are always estimated budgets. The best you can think about at that time with the information you have at that time. If during the project it turns out that you have leftover budgets from somewhere, for example, phase 1 was cheaper than expected, or phase 2 of the pre-commercial procurement was cheaper than expected, you can, of course, you need to foresee it in your procurement documents, but it is possible to transfer this budget to the next phase, to use it for the following phase of deployment or testing, or to use it for adding it to deployment budgets. This will need to be then agreed and fixed during the project duration, but it is not impossible to do that. What is the fast track PCP? It's mentions in the rules for Horizon Europe that it is possible to do a fast track PCP. What is it? It's a pre-commercial procurement that doesn't have the normal 3 phases of solution design phase 1, prototype development and lab testing phase 2, final solution development and field testing in phase 3, but it's one that combines all these forms of development and testing that were in phase 1 and phase 3 in one and the same phase to go quicker, basically. It is a possibility that is allowed in Horizon Europe if there is budgetary commitment to buy the solutions, and therefore you don't have endless time to do this pre-commercial procurement. You need to get the solutions quicker. So that's why you go for the fast track. It's not mandatory to do it. If you still want to do 3 phases because it's also complex and you really need 3 phases, otherwise it becomes also maybe too expensive, too risky, I don't know what, you can still do a 3-phase PCP, but it's a possibility that we offer to make things go quicker. So how do you now implement this in practice? We see this on the next slide. Option 1, deploying solutions during the PCP project, and even in 1.1, during the PCP procurement itself. When do you do that? When you know already before the PCP starts which procurers want to buy solutions, because you need to include then the deployment budget in your pre-commercial procurement budget if you launch the procurement. So you can only do it if you know it from the beginning who will want to buy how much. Advantages, you don't need to start another procurement afterwards to buy the solutions, and you can buy them directly from the suppliers in the PCP. And if the whole procurement will be organized and also suppliers will be paid centrally by the lead procurer, also this deployment purchase of the resulting solutions will be done in that way. And it means also that the VAT rate of the lead procurer will apply to all these purchases of the final solutions. If you have a lead procurer with a very low VAT rate in his country, this can be interesting for all the other procurers. If you choose the other option, every buyer pays the supplier separately, then the VAT rate of every buyer individually will apply to those solutions that he buys. That's also an option. What are the restrictions? Well, it's an R&D services procurement, which means that the majority of the money during the PCP procurement needs to be spent on buying R&D services, not on supplies that come out of the procurement. So you can spend maximum 49%, not more than half, because then it becomes a majority of the PCP procurement budget on buying supplies that come out of the procurement. What if it's not supplies that you want to buy, but services afterwards? Well, a procurement cannot buy things that continue beyond the duration of the procurement duration. So as if the service contract is supposed to continue beyond the PCP, then you cannot include it in the PCP. So either you make your PCP longer and include a sort of deployment phase for services, or you choose the next option not to deploy within the PCP procurement, but after the PCP procurement. And so you see on the pictures the option to either deploy in the fast track mode with having the deployment already inside of phase 2, or to say, yeah, I do all research and development in a fast track way in phase 1 and phase 2, but I do the deployment in a separate phase because then I can decide on the budget of the procurement after phase 2 is finished and take any leftover budgets from phase 1 and phase 2 and add them to phase 3. So you have this choice also, depending on whether you know that everybody wants to buy everything anyway, then the easiest way is the scenario on the left. If you don't know, maybe the one on the right is more flexible. On the next slide, we go into the next option. I still want to buy solutions during the project, but not anymore during the pre-commercial procurement. So I will buy it after the pre-commercial procurement is finished, but still during the Horizon project, so I can still get it funded by this project. So then you don't need to know before the procurement starts who will buy exactly what. You can maximize the PCP budget just for doing R&D, not for buying solutions yet. But you need to start a new procurement afterwards to buy the solutions then. And it will be the country of the procurer or procurers that buy the solutions that will determine which VAT rate will then apply to this deployment procurement. If it's exactly the same procurers who were in the buyers group of the PCP that will buy only solutions that were developed during the PCP, no extra additional copies of the solutions, no modifications to the solutions, exactly what was done and delivered and tested during the PCP, then you can use, according to the procurement directives, the negotiated procedure without doing any publication to buy supplies directly from the PCP suppliers. But this does not work for service contracts. It's only for supplies, and only if it's the same procurers buying solutions developed during the PCP. So again, for service contracts, the same issue as before. A European project can only reimburse costs that were incurred during the project. So if your service contract is supposed to continue beyond the European project, we will not be able to reimburse those costs, only the ones that sit within the duration of the project. So if you have a service contract, split it then in 2 parts or something between, the phase that happens during the project and the phase afterwards. And then you must include the procurement costs, not anymore, of course, under the budget category and the budget table for the PCP procurement cost, but under another budget category, namely the one for purchasing costs or the one for subcontracting costs. You can choose. Then the last option for deployment that we have is option 2. You will not deploy anything during the PCP project, but you plan to deploy afterwards. Then you do not include any deployment budget in the budget table of the project because we will not co-finance it. You need to finance it then yourself in another way. And you will need to start a new procedure to buy the solutions. Same kind of considerations as previously. Do you buy just what was been developed during the PCP or not? Do you have additional buyers or not? Will determine if you can use a negotiated procedure without publication or not. It's also possible to combine options. There have been projects that have procured limited set of solutions during the procurement and wider deployment of the solutions with an extended buyers group, for example, after the project. So that is also feasible. Then on the next slide, we can take oh yeah, it's Anna already, sorry. Yes, please go ahead, Anna-Pia.
Thank you, Lieve. I hope you can hear me well. I'll just keep on presenting, and if not, then someone can interrupt me.
Yes,
okay,
everything's perfect.
Okay, super. So Lieve's just explained a little bit in quite a lot of detail the instrument, and I will present a little bit more on the topic and the rationale behind the topic. So this topic is a pre-commercial procurement for environmentally sustainable, climate neutral and circular health and care systems. Oh, sorry, I have to go here, I think. So this topic is under Destination 4 of the Health Cluster Work Programme for 2024, and the call will close on the 26th of November. As mentioned, it's a PCP, and the budget that has been indicated for this topic is 15 million, and we estimate that projects will require 3 to 5 million euros to carry out the type of work that we are looking to fund. However, projects or proposals can propose budgets of different sizes, and the evaluation will look at whether the budget is in line with the proposed activity. So if we move on, this topic is under Destination 4, which is aimed at ensuring access to innovative and sustainable high-quality healthcare. These are the expected impacts of the destination, which are important for when drafting the impact section of the proposal. But I want to just really focus more here on the scope. So the scope really describes what we're trying to achieve with this topic. So as we know, the healthcare sector is responsible for about 4 to 5% of the global carbon emissions, and therefore, excuse me, it contributes significantly to the European carbon footprint. There's a large generation of plastics and also other types of waste. And we know on a policy level that there are many calls for action to not only ensure better health outcomes by transforming healthcare systems for the type of care, but also for them to become more climate resilient, low carbon, sustainable, circular, and equitable. So we know also that innovative solutions can help to reduce the environmental impact of the healthcare sector through either using more efficiently resources or increasing the circularity of the healthcare services, introducing greener materials, technologies, and practices. So this is a little bit the background to the topic. And therefore, we are funding pre-commercial procurement actions that target consortia of procurers. So for those of you, well, I hope everybody is familiar with this type of instrument, that we're not looking to fund research activities, but actually to fund a group of procurers who will then procure research activities. These procurers need to have similar needs, and that they want to procure together the development of the innovative solution that will eventually lead to a greener or the greening of the healthcare systems. So we're looking for proposals that target either the direct or indirect footprint that derive from the provision or delivery of care, circularity, waste production and treatment, the footprint that comes from the chain of the suppliers in making and delivering products and services, or proposals that target the more efficient use of resources, which as a result will then decrease the overall sector footprint while still addressing the constantly increasing demand for healthcare. We are looking for proposals that actually envisage sufficient dialogue between the supply and the demand side. And therefore, we also want to have effective involvement of the end users. So this could be patients, it could be clinical teams, hospital structures, whatever is needed to trial and potentially deploy the proposed solution. We tried to draft this topic as open as possible to allow for, I would say, a higher amount of solutions, or applications. So the transfer and adaptation of solutions and interventions that come from other sectors to the healthcare system setting would be possible, so it is within scope. Proposals that are based either on one specific solution or technological field, as well as proposals that look to combine different types of innovations to provide that end-to-end solution that is needed, are also within scope. What isn't in scope are proposals that target general infrastructure, such as the energy efficiency of buildings, ventilation systems, the vehicles, so the fleets, transportation, construction, or refurbishment. What is also not in scope is the energy supply of buildings or food and catering services. I think Lieve already introduced the fact that in this topic we're allowing the fast track PCP as well as the normal PCP. Again, according to the topic text, we would like that if the choice is to go the normal PCP route, that there is a deliverable in the proposal envisaged in which the procurers will prepare the follow-up procurement. And I think Lieve already gave quite a bit of detail on that, so I don't want to go on further with that. But here we are also opening up the possibility that you can procure the solution in small non-commercial quantities as part of the PCP, so what we call the fast track PCP. Again, topic text here, also very important to know what are the expected outcomes that we are aiming for with these projects. So what we want to stimulate are that public procurers help stimulate the competitive development of market-ready solutions that are environmentally sustainable and innovative. We're looking for supporting actions that allow procurers to open up opportunities that bring to the market innovations that are cost efficient, safe and proven. So there should be no compromise in the level of care, but that increase the environmentally sustainability of the solution, and also maintaining the access of care for patients. We're looking at actions that facilitate the commercialization of environmentally sustainable, innovative solutions by providing first customer references for the validation and the first pilot deployment. So I think, like what Lieve mentioned, is we're looking here to have not only impact, but to have it in a fast and efficient way. And we're looking for policymakers, healthcare providers and professionals, patients and carers, so everybody in this ecosystem, to exchange and adopt good practices, as well as the best solutions and technologies that the market can deliver in order to reduce the carbon emissions, minimize waste and pollution stemming from healthcare provision, and to do this in a fast way. So these are all the expected outcomes for the topic, which are very important, again, to keep in mind when you're drafting the impact section. This is my last slide, and I just wanted to perhaps give a little bit of guidance coming out from the previous experiences that we've had for PCP topics, and that it's important that proposals really understand or demonstrate in the proposal itself that there is a strong understanding of the instrument, what its purpose is, and how it can be implemented correctly. It's a different type of grant. I mean, it's still a grant, but it's a different type of grant to the normal grants that we have in Horizon Europe. So it's important to also, have a good understanding of what its purpose is. We need to have a good description and a good focus on what the actual clinical needs are, the clinical setting, and how that impact on the greening is for procurers, and not specifically on the type of technologies that will be eventually developed by suppliers. So it really is about describing in the proposal what the problem is, what the problem that these procurers that you are facing in your clinical settings, and what the challenge is for you to address those problems in a sustainable and green way. So the objectives need to be clearly described, and a good description of how they will be measured as well as achieved. Good proposals can also benefit from demonstrating that they understand very well the market landscape and the potential challenges for eventual adoption of the solutions. And it is very important to include details on how the project will achieve its expected outcomes and impact. And for this, I mean, particularly in the healthcare system or in the patient care, the healthcare setting. So by that, I mean, its impact not only in maintaining the level of patient care, but also in ensuring that there is a reduction in the carbon footprint. So we're looking for proposals that justify and explain in detail what their targets are and how they want to reach those with the solution. And I think that it's very important that proposals present realistic risks and sufficient mitigation strategies for those risks. So I hope this has been helpful in terms of understanding better why we drafted this topic and what we're looking for in the projects that we will fund. And I think with that, I will pass the word on to Sammy, and we will answer questions afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna-Pia. So my name is Sami Betish. I'm co-coordinator in ADEA, which is responsible for the implementation of the Cluster 1 Health and Mission Cancer in the Horizon Europe. So since a lot have been said already and we're a bit delayed, I will focus my presentation on the submission and the evaluation processes. And without delay, I will start with the submission process, which is done electronically. And you can access this submission links via the funding and tenders portal. It's very important that you don't wait the last minute to not only start drafting your proposal, because you can always work on your proposal, save the draft and come back to it anytime you need, give access to other colleagues or entities. And it's really important that you don't wait for the last moment to submit your proposals in order to avoid that you face any unforeseen IT issue on the day of the deadline, which is the 26th of November at 5 p.m. So there's a lot of documentation available. We'll share the links. There are a few documents that are very important, starting from the topic descriptions, the Annex H of the general annexes, which explain all the process and the legal obligations of the instruments, which have been described by Lieve. And obviously, you will have the application form for the PCP action. The application form is composed of two parts. The part A, which is an online form where you will be requested to encode all the information related to the proposal, its name, the summary, what are the entities that are joining the proposal, what kind of entities are those participants, the contact details, information on ethics, security, and so on and so forth. And there is also a budget table where you will have to summarize the efforts that you intend and the budget that you foresee for your action per type of cost and per participants. But we'll come back to that at a later stage. And then you will have the part B, just the previous slide, which is the narrative part of your proposal. That's the core of your application, and this is where you will have to explain what is the objective of your project and how you intend to implement it. And this part B, the template, I really invite you to closely follow that template, which is structured along the different award criteria, and under each section you will have instructions that will guide you in your drafting your application, and this will help you to draft a comprehensive application and something that is easily readable for the evaluators. Keep in mind also that there is a maximum page limit, which is 45 pages, and that any exceeding page will be disregarded, actually will not be made available to the experts. And for the budget aspects, you can find, you will need to provide information both in part A in the online form and in various tables that are under the section 3 of the Part B. So, next slide, please. Now, about the evaluation process, the evaluation of the pre-commercial procurement instrument follow the standard evaluation process as any action in under Horizon Europe. Meaning that on the 26th of November at 7 p.m., we will look at all the proposals that we have received. We will perform an admissibility and eligibility check on the basis of the criteria that have been explained by Lieve at the beginning of this session. All the proposals that will be considered as admissible and eligible will be allocated to a set of 3 to 5 experts that will be in charge of evaluating these proposals. The experts are independent experts, which have been selected on the basis of their knowledge of the topic area and on the basis of the expertise in pre-commercial procurement, and possibly on the basis of the combination of the two. Then all evaluators will have to draft an individual evaluation report where they will have to assess the proposal against the 3 award criteria, excellence, impact, and implementation, and to provide a score that corresponds to their comments. At the end of this individual evaluation phase, all the experts will be invited to Brussels in order to meet in consensus groups with a view to agree on a common position about each proposals on the set of comments that they have for each criterion, and to agree on a common score for each of those criterion and with the overall score. Then all the experts will meet in a panel. All experts involved in the evaluation of those proposals agree on all the scores, comments of the evaluation summary report, the consistency across the evaluation, and then based on the final scores that have been given to all the proposal, propose a draft ranking list which will be endorsed by the EC and the agency. So it's on the basis of this final ranking list and based on the available budget, 15 million in that case, and the budget requested by the top scorer proposals, we will be able to set the line on those to select the proposal that will be retained for funding, to identify those proposals that will be put on a reserve list in case additional funding is made available, and obviously to define which proposal will be rejected. Next slide, please. So a word maybe on the scoring. So we will select the top proposals, having in mind that in order to be funding all the proposals, we'll have to meet the minimum score and threshold that are minimum score of 4 for excellence and impact, a minimum of 3 for implementation, and a minimum score of 12 as an overall score for the proposals. If a proposal fails to meet one of those thresholds, it will not be selected for funding. In terms of timetable, the deadline is on 26th of November. We have a legal obligation to inform all applicants about the results within the five months after the submission deadline. We are usually quicker than that, but just to give you an idea. And for those proposals that will be selected for funding, we will have 3 months to conclude and sign the grant agreements after after having informed the applicants about the result of the evaluation. So next slide, please. Thank you. As any proposal which is evaluated under Horizon Europe work program, we have a set of criteria that are excellence, impact, and implementation. Those criteria have been adapted to the pre-commercial procurement instruments, which you can see on the slide, and which we will go in a bit more detail in the following slides. So next slide, please. Thank you. in order to save time, I will just highlight one point here, which is the last one. Please follow the template, which is structured along the award criteria and which provide a lot of guidance for you to place the information at the right in the right sections in this template. So if we look now at the application templates, next slide, please. It's structured against excellence, impact, and quality and efficiency of the implementation. It's mainly the narrative part of your proposal. So next slide, please. So under excellence, under objectives and ambition, you will be requested to identify what are the procurement needs, what are the common challenges among the different buyers involved in the proposal that all the buyers would like to address, what are the needs that are not met, and that all the procurers would like to fill in and to address. You will need to, for that, to describe what are the objectives of the actions. Those objectives will need to be measurable, realistic, and it will have to do about you will have to demonstrate what are those objectives in terms of improving the quality, the efficiency of the public services. You have to specify whether it's to address a wider societal challenge, whether the objective of the action is a result of a change in regulation that would require new solutions, if there's a need for standardization, and so on and so forth. So it's really important that you clarify and you explain what are those objectives, and that you explain to what extent you intend to go beyond the state of the art. So you will need to describe how ambitious is the procurement objective in terms of improving the quality and the efficiency of the public services from a procurer perspective, but also you will need to explain to what extent you think that there is a highly new degree of innovation that will be required from the suppliers in order to meet the objectives. Then under excellence, you will be asked to explain what will be your methodology. So here it's mainly about the narrative of your approach towards the project at large and to the PCP more specifically. In section 3, you will have a different tables where you could more precisely explain the work packages, the type of activities, the deliverables, the milestones, the timeline, and the budgetary aspects. But here it's really to focus on the approaches and your methodology. What are your assumptions that also underline your approaches? So you will need to not only explain your choices in terms of during the preparatory phase and the additional activities throughout the project to accompany the implementation of the PCP, and but also you will also and mainly have to explain how you intend to run the actual pre-commercial procurement from the very preparatory phase to this, how you decide to sequence the PCP, going for a fast track or not, how many suppliers you expect, how many budget you intend to dedicate, and the rationale beyond, how you intend to monitor the different the progress of the suppliers, what kind of evaluation procedure you foresee during the different phases. So that was for excellence. Now going to impact sections. As mentioned by my colleague Anapi, it's very important that you look at the potential impact of your projects, meaning beyond the duration of the projects. And for that, indeed, you will have to look at the destination. What are the wider impacts, the scientific, economic, societal impacts that are expected when looking at the destination in the work program, and more specifically also to the expected outcomes that are specified in the topic text and which have been described by Anapia. So there is very important that you identify what are the target groups. Are we talking about procurers, policymakers, healthcare providers, patients, carers, so that you are able also to quantify your targets in terms of scale, and to also be able to provide some explanation on the significance of the impact, on how important, what is the intensity and the type of impact you expect for those target groups that you have identified, and the different way to reach this impact. Importantly as well, you will need to identify any potential barriers of all sorts, being regulatory, economic, that might affect the potential impact of your project in a mid or long term, and what kind of actions you may foresee for that. The second set of sub-criteria for the impact section, then you will have to provide a plan for dissemination and exploitation and communication, having in mind all the target groups that you have identified, and to see how you will be able to further disseminate and exploit the results beyond, during and beyond the lifetime of the project. This is also in that section that you will be asked to provide your strategy on the management of IPRs, bearing in mind that for PCP, the IPRs remain the property of the suppliers, with the procurers having the license to use the solutions and to possibly grant it to third party involved in the testing deployment of the solutions.
Sami?
Yes?
Can we please come to an end?
Yes, we can.
We should move
Okay.
to the Q&A.
So with that slide, in the implementation section, you will see, you just go through that section and you will see that you will be required certain number of work packages and certain of number of deliverables and milestones attached to different phases of the procurement, and you will just have to follow the guidance provided there. So I stop here, not to be too long. And I give the floor to Liv, who will just briefly say words on budget tables.
I hope that you can hear me. So this
Yes.
is an example of how you could, not how you have to, but how you could divide the budget for example, a pre-commercial procurement action, so the whole project of 10 million euro. If, for example, you decide to spend 9 million euro of that on the procurement itself, the pre-commercial procurement, and 1 million euro on other surrounding activities, then typically the last phase is the most expensive. More expensive than design and prototyping is building the actual product and testing it also in a field testing environment. How expensive or how much percentage of the total budget depends on how many suppliers you want to participate in this last phase still. Same for the phases before that will have more suppliers. Think when you design your budget distribution for the project and for the PCP procurement in particular, how many suppliers in this particular field should I have to start with a good competition in phase one, and how many do I think can continue, or do I want to have up to the last phase to make your budget distribution credible? Okay, if we go to the next phase, how do you fill in then the budget table for the same 9 million euro PCP procurement example and 10 million euro total project? Suppose you have 3 procurers in the buyers group, each contributing, to be simple in the calculations, the same amount to the procurement budget. How can you then enter it in the table? depends on whether you choose option 1 or 2. Option 1 is that all 3 procurers ask all their funding from the Horizon Europe work program. Option 2, which has never been used, but it's possible in theory, is that some procurers ask budget from the Horizon Europe work program, whereas others ask funding from another European program, for example, the Structural Funds program. I will focus now for the rest on the option 1, since that's the most used. You still have two options there. You can choose whether you want the lead procurer to pay all the suppliers in the procurement, or whether each procurer wants to pay each supplier pro rata, so in this case 1/3 of all the cost statements that they will submit during the whole duration of the procurement. Obviously, option 1 is the less difficult one, both for the suppliers and the procurer. So most projects choose that, and then they choose a lead procurer, which also has a reasonable VAT rate that needs to be paid on top of the actual R&D that is being delivered. But both options are possible. So if we go to the next slide, you will see how you really enter that in the budget table. Remember our 9 million euro procurement cost. If you want a lead procurer number 1 to pay all suppliers, you put 9 million on row 1 for the lead procurer under the PCP procurement cost, which are under category D, they're D5 of all the different types of costs. If you want the other option, each procurer pays pro rata all suppliers, you put 3 million euro on the line of each procurer under this PCP procurement cost category. You can have also other costs in this procurement project, right? Like personnel costs for the procurers to prepare the solution, indirect costs and so on that will be added and so on. But you have also these additional activities there that we talked about, which can also have the deployment cost. Because either if you decide to do the deployment under the PCP procurement, you have to include this deployment cost within the 9 million that we just discussed under the column D5. But if you decide to do the deployment outside of the PCP procurement, but still within the PCP project, you have to enter it either in column B, subcontracting costs, or in column C, C2, more specifically under equipment purchase costs. Up to you to choose whether it's more an equipment-like cost or a subcontracting of an activity. But you have these options, and then you fill it in the correct table. Again, of course, for those procurers who want to buy solutions, if only procurer 1 wants to buy something, then you fill only in under subcontracting or equipment cost on the row of procurer 1. Otherwise, you fill it in for multiple procurers. That's how you fill in the budget table. I think there is one more slide and then we are finished, because there is another table related to this procurement budget, but then inside the proposal itself in the descriptive part, table 3.1f, which asks, again, to show the budget distribution, but in a bit different way, to have an idea of how the budget for the PCP procurement is distributed among the different procurers that participate in the project. Remember, most projects have all suppliers paid by the lead procurer. So in the real budget table, the previous budget table, we typically only have the 9 million euro under the lead procurer, and that's the only visibility that we have on what's the PCP budget that's being used, but we don't see how this is spread across. Is it multiple suppliers in multiple procurers, in the buyers group that are each having 3 million of this procurement budget or not. And that's what this table shows, how the total PCP procurement budget is divided among all the procurers in the buyers group. So both for option 1 and 2, regardless of the lead procurer paying all suppliers or not, you fill in our example, the 3 million euro under the 3 procurers that participate in the buyers group. You have the option there to indicate also that you bring in additional budget from your own resources in the green column or from other EU programs like the structural funds If not, you put 0 there, and then it's 3 million euro in the first column and in the last column. And that's it in terms of budget tables. Thanks a lot.
Thank you to all three of you for this really thorough overview of the instrument, the topic, and the condition. We are a bit behind schedule, but it was important to set the scene. I propose that we have now a Q&A session, that we answer the sessions in the Q&A. We take first those that have marks, so we are voted, and then the others. And I kindly ask our colleague Giorgio to ask the questions, and to either Lieve, Anna Pia, or Sami to answer them.
Okay, so I think we can start from the questions that were done some days before this workshop, right? That Sasha reposted on the Q&A chat. So I will start with the first. Is a Canadian biotech eligible to apply to a tender? What the criteria?
Okay, so if I understand the question is whether this is about the eligibility of the supplier, right, in an eventual tender. Lieve, I think you are probably more familiar with the procurement directives, but it depends, I think.
Okay, so what our well, first of all, the pre-commercial procurements are not subject to the procurement directives and are not subject to the international procurement obligations of the EU towards other parts of the world, not subject to the WTO or other international agreements. They fall outside all of this. So nobody is obliged to open the tenders, in fact, to Canadian entities. But our own Horizon work program says that all pre-commercial procurements, because they're funded by the Horizon program, need to be open to suppliers from all EU member states and all countries that are associated to the Horizon work program, since they contribute budget to the program. And I think Canada is associated, so this means even though procurement rules don't make it mandatory, our own Horizon Europe rules make it mandatory that the pre-commercial procurement rules, pre-commercial procurements are also open to Canadian companies.
Okay. Thank you, Liv. I will follow up with the second question from Valentina Albarani. Is the fast track a specific way to submit the proposal? If so, could you please give more details?
The proposal template is exactly the same, whether you want to go for a fast track PCP or not. The same 3 criteria, the same same information to fill in, except in the part where it is asked to explain how do you plan to do your pre-commercial procurement. You will then, in writing, describe that we would like to do it in the fast track way instead of in the 3-phase way. And this is why we require this budget, because this is how we plan to spend it over 2 phases instead of 3.
Perfect. We have another question that was posed to us in the previous days. What's the percentage of indirect costs that are funded in this kind of projects?
Yeah, maybe I can just say it's a flat 25%.
25. And I follow up. a cost breakdown of the economic offer is requested to bidders participating in PCP. Can the cost of the materials used by the suppliers to build the prototype be paid with PCP funds, even if the materials remain the property of the suppliers?
Yeah, I can answer this question. So basically, the European Commission does not decide how the procurement contracts are going to look like, right? It's the public buyers in the project who decide that. But it's a public procurement, meaning the procurers describe what they want, their requirements, and the companies make offers. So it's offers which are at market price, not just X% of your R&D cost is reimbursed. No, you make your price, whatever your price is, can be lower, higher than other companies. And you can include all the type of costs that you think are needed to deliver the R&D service, to make the prototypes and so on. So if you need, I don't know, a specific tool, a specific equipment, a specific material to build your prototype, I think that this is eligible. You can put that as supplier in your financial offer. Of course, if it's, for example, you need a license for a software to do it, and you only need that license then for the duration of this prototyping, you shouldn't then charge the procurer for using it 10 years more later. You should really charge him for using the materials and the equipment that you need for doing the work that he's asking you to do during the project, of course.
Okay, let's move on.
The
So,
last question.
the last question you say, okay, so
Yes.
can big research institutions apply even if they are not necessarily hospital, for instance?
Okay,
Now
maybe
you mean as a buyer or as a supplier to the procurement?
I think here it's more in terms of the scope, Liva,
Okay.
because I think in terms of, as you mentioned earlier, they are public procurers, right? So that's technically not an issue. But I mean, this topic is under Destination 4, which is about basically the healthcare systems and transforming them into what is needed for the future. So research institutes themselves have also a high carbon footprint. I don't think, unless it is about a section of work that relates to providing care to patients, so I would say not necessarily excluded, but there would have to be a good justification in the proposal explaining how this falls under the topic text or the scope and within the destination. So really the provision of care for patients rather than research. I hope that was clear.
Thank you. And for the sake of time, we will close here. And if you agree, we will send you the questions that are in the Q&A so that you answer them, and we provide them to the audience later. Would this be possible?
I think we can manage that.
Thank you very much. And Giorgio wanted
Yep.
to take a picture.
So before
I would just remind that this event is recorded. If you don't want to appear on the picture, feel free to not switch on your camera, but otherwise we would be happy to see all of you. And
now I will change the mode exactly. So now short, we will be able to, as sooner or later everyone appears, we will take a short picture and then we will follow up with the break and the other activities. So I will take a screen now. Say PCP. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Giorgio. Thank you all for participating. In the sake of time, let's skip the break. I'm sorry, but otherwise we will really run out of time. And let's start immediately with the testimonial of Magnus Wallengren, who is Innovation Manager at Innovation Skåne in Sweden and coordinator of the Horizon 2020 PCP project Care Matrix. And interestingly, he's also member of the Procure for Health project, which is a CSA, which was mentioned by Lieve before. Magnus, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much, Nicole, and thank you for having me. It's a great honor. Yes, what we are presenting here today is our more practical view of the implementation of a PCP project that's funded by, in this case, Horizon 2020, and our experience in doing so for the last few years. So my name is, as mentioned, Magnus Wallengren. I'm the coordinator of this project, the Care Matrix PCP, and I ordinarily work at an organization in Sweden called Innovation Skåne, which is Region Skåne's publicly owned innovation company, where I work as a European project manager. For a brief introduction of our Care Matrix project, we are a joint endeavor supporting the development of integrated care solutions designed to develop innovative technologies for people living with multimorbidities. These have typically proven to be digital health technologies, and we are working in doing so. We are working with you've heard the term buyers group several times now. We are working with buyers from Sweden, that is Skåne, from Norway, that is Västra Viken, and from Spain, that is the Basque regional healthcare provider. In our consortium, those buyers are also supported by other regional actors and multiplier actors to make sure that we have actual exploitation of our results in those regions, but also across member states. We're skipping a bit of the intro to move swiftly to some of the observations and what we have felt have been some success factors, but also challenges throughout these projects and processes. You recognize this process flow, the different steps that any given PCP were designed to go through, at least as part of the Horizon 2020 program. We have actually in our project just started phase 3, so this image is not quite up to date, but still it's valid. We take it to heart very much to work actively with outreach, first during phase 0 in the preparatory phase, but also throughout the entire project process. This is to make sure that we can make sure or optimize that we reach as many relevant actors and stakeholders as possible for them to provide input during phase 0, where we prepare the tender that we publish as part of the first tender, but also so that we can make sure that we are relevant throughout all phases of the PCP process. Especially when it comes to the outreach during phase 0, we realized that these can be perceived to be quite complicated instruments. So we wanted to make sure that we could have as wide an outreach as possible. We wanted to encourage applicants or tenderers to form consortia to make sure that they would have as a robust tender offer as possible. We try to have as wide outreach as possible to make sure that we could use different forums. We used different types of formats, RFIs, formal RFIs, and those are public requests for information, a term in public procurement, but also different types of perhaps, let's say, less formalized types of outreach so that we could invite and welcome other actors which are not typically part of public procurement processes. We actively try to seek collaborators to work with us as multipliers in trying to gain as much traction as possible. This could be incubators, different types of clusters that could help us share the message of what we try to do with this project. We had an intense effort to try to reach, let's say, unusual suspects, suppliers and other stakeholders which are not typically part of public procurement processes. Perhaps there is a concerns about them being overly complicated or not their type of market, but we felt that these have really untapped potential for us to provide new value into this innovative process that we work with. And this goes both for new and different sets of end users, and as well for different types of industries and suppliers, which we had a strong feeling could help us produce new value into the process. This helped us not only broadening the message to suppliers, but also to make sure that we had continuous engagement with end users and involvement throughout all phases, which becomes particularly important for us now that we start phase 3, which is also parts of change management aspects or elements, now that these innovations sooner or later would want to be realized in regular daily operations. To be more practical, this is the balance that we had decided upon when we designed our project. We had quite a large number of contracts. Those are suppliers in the first phase, reduced to 5 in the second phase, and now we are left with the 2 most excellent suppliers in the third phase. We would urge any applicant to have a careful look how you balance these numbers, basically, because to be fair, having 9 contractors in a very short first phase can be quite overwhelming. It's difficult to monitor the progress of all of them and actively have them engage with the projects. If we would do it again, we would surely consider having less than that. 5 for the second phase could definitely work, but we also want to emphasize that the prototype development phase can be described as the most important phase of the project, actually. This is the phase where we actively guide the suppliers that are part of the project guide their development to make sure that they meet the requirements and unmet needs and develop fit for purpose solutions that we're looking for in the bias group. This is to say that these are the last 2 suppliers that we are working with in the project. They are a project called Hope CMX and another one called Inca. We don't need to dwell on that. A few remaining observations, quite a bit more general than what's previously been mentioned, is that what we like about these instruments is that we work across member states. We try to combine and summarize different types of context and needs to make sure that results are actually scalable, and by doing so, they also have a larger opportunity to be sustainable in the long term. What we like about the PCP and other types of innovation procurement instrument is that these are established tools for public-private collaboration, so that we can push markets and industry to develop R&D and services that are fit for purpose for our public organizations. In terms of time, these projects easily go on for 3 or 4 or 5 years, and we need to monitor and review that unmet needs and as well as markets and industries may very well change over that time. So we need to have a regular check on that. And to be honest, just to have all of you that seek to apply mentally prepared, there is going to be a lot of documentation involved. I'm sure that you are all experienced in implementing Horizon projects, and just as any other one, there is a really close review and close monitoring of that we do things right, do things correctly in these types of collaborations. I mentioned before that we want to be open, we want to be transparent about the results that we achieve throughout all phases to make sure that we have fair competition. And what we like about our project is that we've had quite an ambitious approach, which we of course need to balance with what is realistic in terms of resources and everything that goes into it. Nicole mentioned our participation in the Pan-European Innovation Procurement Initiative Procure for Health, where we, with a large consortium, drive capacity building in innovation procurement. We have different tools that are offered through the community and the website. We offer networking and matchmaking across different public procurers that want to learn more about innovation procurement, adopt and implement. And what we're looking to do now is to develop a action plan so that we can also have policy impact of what we have done during the last few years. And here are some contacts for me. If there's anything else, you can get in touch or visit our website at carematrix.eu. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Magnus, for this insightful presentation about your experience in Care Matrix. I would like now to call to stage Lorena Rossi, who is Head of Unit for Technological Innovation in Care and Data Management at the Italian National Research Center on Aging, and who is part of the STARS PCP project, and we are eager to hear about your experience.
Thanks, Nicole. Can you see my screen?
Perfectly, yes.
Okay. Thanks to Nicole and the organization for inviting me. I'm a project manager and innovation responsible for IRCA, that is an Italian public institute in gerontology and geriatrics with 3 hospitals, with 3 research hospitals whose mission is to deliver highly specialized medical, nursing, and long-term care to elderly people. What I will try to tell you is something about our experience in the STARS project. The scope of the STARS project was to develop a new personalized health solution to reduce the stress in patient planned for surgery during the entire care process. It was quite ambitious in the sense that the project wanted to include in the scope all the perioperative step from when the person received the communication of the need to have surgery till the completed recovery moment. The project includes 11 partners from 6 countries. The coordinator was the University of Maastricht, and we have 5 buyers from 3 countries. The Maastricht University Hospital, our hospital here in Ancona in Italy, and 3 hospitals in Spain, the Reina Sofia in Cordoba, and the Parc-Taulí and Sant Joan de Déu in Barcelona. And there was even other partner that contribute to the requirement phase to the phase 0 and to the implementation of the pre-commercial procurement. I will try to tell you something about our experience with PCP. What is really important, I think, is that this kind of project can really help in filling the gap between the supply and demand that often is a problem when we try to innovate healthcare process. It's different from other kind of initiative. It's different from traditional procurement, but it's different even from research and innovation project where, for example, enterprise and other stakeholder works together. What we have learned from this process? First of all, it's really important that the topic of the procurement should be really well defined. When we start working in project management, the first lesson is that Save the World is not a project. The project should have a clear, really clear boundary, and this is especially true, in my opinion, for the commercial procurement, because it's easier to communicate with the suppliers, but make possible to arrive to a prototype for future commercialization, because it should important to remember that the focus of PCP is to produce something that are ready for future commercialization. So a product, not a generic, a qualitative solution to a problem, but a product. And to have a working product is necessary to have a clear definition of the problem. And another issue, in my opinion, is that it's really important to consider from the beginning that healthcare is a really complex process. So there are a lot of potential interfering processing. There is the need of interoperability with other systems. If we talk about digital health, that are the most part of solution that are the result of PCP. And sometimes there are even practical and logistic aspects. And this should be considered from the beginning of the definition of the project writing, to be sure that they don't create problem in the last phase of the project. I already said that PCP is a tool that allows to procure and supply to work together, but it's really important to understand that they don't collaborate because there is the competition among the different suppliers. So the role of the procurer is to guide this competition to arrive to the best possible solution. There isn't a co-design activity among supplier and procurer. This is something that may be a temptation during the process, but these two, the role of the two should be really clearly defined. And another important thing is that the procurer, the PCP partner, should focus on the definition and the clear explanation of the problem, not on the solution. Is not their role to guide the definition of the solution. The supplier should be left very free to propose a completely different solution, to have a wider set of possible technical solution to the problem that we have defined, and to have the possibility to choose the real best solution. Another key issue in my experience is that much more than in other projects, time is really critical resource, in the sense that a lot of the single step that are part of the PCP process are regulated by law. All the relationship between the procurer and the supply have already defined the time you have to let the procurer have to left to the supplier some time to present the proposal, some time to reply, some time to comment and have the possibility to ask for clarification, and this time cannot be reduced. In standard research project, you can work hard and do two things in parallel and recover delay, for example. In this kind of project, it's very complex to recover a delay because there are all these limits that cannot be overcome. The last suggestion is related to the last testing phases. The result of the PCP are less or more, not always, but most part are a clinical device. A clinical device has a really regulated process for testing. The ambition on when writing a project is always to try to arrive to a real clinical validation somehow. Want to demonstrate, want to challenge the problem and try to demonstrate even the efficacy of the solution. But this is, in the most case, unrealistic to expect to have a clinical result from the testing phase of the prototype. It's much more realistic to have as objective the preclinical studies, the pilot with a limited number of persons, and it's a constraint with a limited duration because the testing of complex solution like the digital health solution have a lot of fixed regulation. The MDR is an example, but all the limitation and that are given by the GDPR and all the problems related to cybersecurity, the need of ethical approval to conduct the tests, and really a lot of effort necessary to conduct this test. After this list of problems, the question should be, but would you do it again? My answer, my sincere answer is yes, in the sense that even if we had a lot of problem, our project completely fall in the COVID phase. The trial has been done in the first semester of 2022, where we still were under COVID restriction. Our hospital was still partially closed, so it was very difficult. But nevertheless, the whole experience it's really positive, and our chief surgeon, that was the main responsible of the trial phase, commented that they faced with a complex and innovative challenge with limited time, and we have deployed all available resources and really established the rapid response team. And I think that this positive comment from a doctor that was always full-time a life really complex, I think it's a positive and a good incentive for future experience. Okay, thanks to all for the attention, and if you have any question, I'm available.
Thank you, Lorena, for this honest but positive experience sharing. And let's move on now to the last speaker, last testimonial, I wanted to say that unfortunately, Carlos Bezos had a private emergency and cannot be with us today. So let's move to the presentation of Sarah Bedin, and we are really interested to hear her experience as an evaluator of PCP proposals, but she has much more experience than that. She's also reviewer, practitioner, teacher, and owner of the PCP Academy. So later in the panel, we will also be happy that she shares her whole experience. But as first, the screen is yours, Sarah. We don't hear you.
Okay, sorry.
Yes.
Thank you
Perfect.
for the invitation. I would like to check if you are able to see the presentation.
Yes. We don't see it full screen. We still see
okay, and
all
now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so I will try to complement the exhaustive, comprehensive presentation that Semi and my colleague have done, providing some insight from the activities of evaluation and revision. The evaluation is an activity that follow the project since the awarding until the end and the completion of the project. The evaluation is aimed at score the proposals and to rank the proposals, but then comes to be followed by European Commission through the reviewers that ensure that the results outcomes align with the expected objective. And reviewers and the intermediate review offers guidance on how to optimize the impact. So the consortium and beneficiaries are not left alone, are followed, assisted, supported by European Commission. So also not practitioner, those who have not experience will find full support from European Commission and appointed experts. The three dimensions that have been already introduced before are the excellence, the impact, and to achieve the impact is under observation and assessment, the quality and efficiency of the implementation. I mentioned the result outcomes and impact. It can be convenient to remind that results are the immediate outputs or deliverables produced by the project. So the documentation about the prototype are results of the project that are generated during the project implementation. This, of course, is considered, is evaluated, the completeness, the quality, robustness of the results, but is also considered the outcomes, promised outcomes, so that are short to medium term effects that the result from the project outputs. And the impacts as well are considered, and you will find in the relative new template to present a proposal of the table that guide you to identify the impacts starting from the outcomes. That the impacts are the broader long-term effects that extend beyond the project durations. So as I said, there is the first stage where we are involved as evaluator, that is the selection of the proposals that merit to be funded. The criteria named excellence, as has been already presented, investigate and assess the pertinence of the objectives and the the level of ambitions and the capacity to go beyond the state of the art in terms of degree of innovation, and also investigate and assess the soundness of the methodology. The same aspects are observed and addressed during the project execution. Typically, there are 3 reviews, one before the launching of the call for tender. The second review is typically conducted before the launching of the mini call-off of phase 2, and the final review is after the completion of the project. But the questions we are required to answer are quite the same. So we are required to assess if the objective of the project are still scientifically and technologically relevant along the project duration. If the pilot and testing exercise have showcased innovative results, and if the progress is in line with the objective. We also check if the recommendation we provided in a very constructive way, this is our intention, not to be severe, but to be cooperative with the consortium to provide an help and to be propositive, have been considered. So sooner or later, these aspects are considered. So it's very efficient to write since the beginning a proposal with the perspective to enable a project execution monitoring, very easy, very clear. But this will help, of course, also the work of the reviewers in the perspective to achieve full results. The aspect of impact is again considered also along the project execution, and the quality and efficiency of the implementation as well. So I will go to some aspects that, based on the practice, I have noted, and I would like to provide also lessons learned and common shortcomings that I have noted and I have detected, and so I learned from this aspect. First of all, the questions, very pragmatic questions that evaluators and reviewers ask themselves and elements they are looking for, I would like to focus on a few aspects. The first point is that it has to emerge very clearly since the first pages of the proposal why you are starting a PCP. So the motivation, the why, is essential. It has to be clear to the readers that there is a robust motivation behind. And another aspect is that the buyers group is a buyers group if they share the need for all the objectives, for all sub-challenges and requirements. The European Commission is financing a joint procurement, a joint PCP. This means that they, the buyers, need to agree. So also to answer to a question that was posed before, if research institute can participate in the buyers group. Of course, if they express a need in the specific field, so it's not enough to have the status of contracting authority. They need to be the recipient, the proponent, the problem owner, the specific problem owners. This means to be buyers group. And the analysis of the capacity to go beyond the state of the art needs to be investigated both on the demand and the supply side. So is important to assess, to convince, to finance the project, how ambitious the project is compared to the public services that are currently operated in the market, and on the other side, how is demanding the R&D intended to be undertaken. Staying in the excellence, so you can use this as eventually a checklist in the preparation of the proposal. The common shortcomings that I have detected in my experience is that sometimes the challenge or the innovation need is describing in very general terms, and so a PCP is not to address a general research and innovation investment in a field, and because being a procurement is important and is a determinant to assure the comparability of the result, as Lorena has evidenced. There is an overemphasis on predefined, identified technology solutions, because it can be that the procurers have appreciated some innovation, and they remain focused and very fixed in a particular technologies. The goal and the advantage of PCP is when the procurers have the chance to compare really not expected solutions. You can have a real novelty, a real innovation that is more efficient based on the competition. An over-reliance on existing solution, the absence of demonstrated innovation gap, PCP is to cover, to face a significant innovation gap and not an incremental effort. And this is depends typically to an insufficient market analysis. Of course, it's not feasible always to conduct the market analysis before the submission of a proposal, but before the launching of the call for tender is really important to be aware of the state of the art. Other aspects are related to the requirement and potential market barriers that are often postponed to the phase 3. So the consortium arrive at phase 3 and realize that there are some barriers, technical barriers, or in participating, in enabling the participation of foreign suppliers, or regulatory barriers that is too late to be fixed. So these also need to be clarified. But coming to another point is that sometimes the open market consultation, which is a crucial step in the preparation of PCP, is organized, but it seems that it ends in itself without reconsidering using the inputs, the outputs as inputs for the call for tender design. So the lessons learned to turn this in positive, eventual positive recommendation and from my side. Ensure that the buyers you involve in the buyers group, and they can be private or public, at least 2 public, but the other can be also private buyers, truly represent the recipient of the innovation, or they have a role in the specific services involved. draft the requirement in a detailed and clear manner, ensuring that the improvement drivers are clear, and define a hierarchy of priorities. It can be that all requirements are must have. It can be that some are nice to have. So it's important to make clear to the suppliers why we are looking for innovative solutions. And what can be avoided and kept is the business case development. And I'm not talking about the business model that will be defined by the suppliers. And I'm not talking about the business plan that as well will be defined by the suppliers, but the business case. So essentially, to compare the cost and benefits to assure the viability and sustainability of these investments, and to prioritize, not to postpone after the phase 3, a determination of a comprehensive total cost of ownership, if applicable, and involve and coordinate with all buyers group, all the buyers from the beginning. Coming to the impact, the questions are essentially who will use, or
Sarah,
further.
we
Yes.
should go quickly. Shorten.
Okay, I
Sorry.
skip this part, and coming to the lessons learned related to the impact. It's important that, and it can be done very simple, to explain the baselines. So the as-is situation and to be the desired outcome and impact is important. Is also fundamental to determine, let me say, who will pay for the large-scale deployment, because if we do not identify the target, is really a stylistic exercise to develop innovation. And then there is an issue that we have no time, unfortunately, to discuss, is related to the management of intellectual property rights, ownership, and allocation. There is, of course, an incentive, a requirement from European Commission to assure the dissemination of project results. And this is also foreseen in the state aid regulations. So the result of a PCP needs to be disseminated, but is important to protect, assure the respect the novelty requirements to the innovation generated by the suppliers if they have intention to patent, for example, or to protect in other ways their proper entities, their property rights. So there is a balance to be found. Be conscious to determine the right balance on what can be communicated, disseminated, and what needs to be kept as confidential. And it's important that the option to allow other buyers outside the project, outside the initial buyers group, to piggyback on the result of the procurement is important to decide this since the beginning, because the suppliers need to know what is the scope of this procurement and what the market will be. So we can't add buyers and buyers in phase 3 because these influence the determination of the price. Finally, related to the quality and efficiency of the implementation, I find, is my personal view, that there is an underestimation of the effort required to prepare for the experimentation. So typically the phase 3 and to validate the result. I'm not talking about the budget. I'm talking about the effort of the consortium, of the buyers and the technical partner assisting the buyers group. When 60% of the project lifespan has been executed, we find that 90% of the personal resources have already been utilized. And this is quite recurrent. So the point is how European Commission can you assure that the project will be completed with the right dedication, with the right effort. Keep in mind this. A disparity in research usage among partners, among procurers. So try to have them involved significantly. And sometimes I find a stratification of roles ranging from innovation manager, evaluation board, contract manager, supervisor, monitoring board. Be simple. The important thing is that the roles are defined clearly, transparently. There are no duplication. There is a complementarity of the expertise, assuring that the decision-making system is and remain in the hands of the procurers. They have to evaluate the solutions. They are capable more than any other to select and to decide what are the merits of the different solutions. Okay. I think I have completed and I am available for eventual questions. I thanks for the attention.
Many thanks for all this insight, especially for the summary for each section of the common mistakes and lessons learned. So this will be very useful. We are now already at 4 o'clock, and we would like to have the panel discussion, but who can stay so that we can continue, because the interest seems big. The question raises questions. And I will ask Sasha to take the lead to moderate the panel.
Thank you, Nicole. Good afternoon from my side. I would like to find out, first of all, who of the panel members can please switch on the camera if you have time for this panel discussion for the next 20 minutes. Oh, thank you, Sammy. Thank you, Magnus. Thank you, Anna-Pia. Oh, perfect. Thank you, Lorena. Thank you, Sarah. And Liv, do you have time too? Oh, we see. We go from here.
Yes, I have time.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. So, to everybody still in this workshop, the panel discussion, I will ask one question to each panel member, and then we will open it up to the participants. Please put your questions that you have again in the Q&A. We don't have so many questions. We have some left from before that were even voted. And actually, I would like to start with the voted ones because they got more votes in the meantime, so that we don't ignore that. So we take the questions in first from the audience that got 2 votes. But then we already had that. The first one is the cost breakdown of the economic offer is requested to bidders participating in PCP. Can the cost of the materials used by the suppliers to build prototype? I believe we had that. The indirect costs we had as well. The fast track is the fast track, we had it as well. And the Canadian SME we had as well. Okay, so fine. So then please, everyone participating, put more questions into the Q&A if you would like to know one. And I would take the opportunity now to ask first Magnus a question from the procurer point of view. What do procurers struggle in when setting up such a project? And which steps of the process is most challenging, or did you find most challenging? And if you can answer from a point of view that there is procurers listening to us, 7% voted there were hospitals, 5% procurers. So pay attention now what Magnus can give you on the way to write a strong proposal.
Yes, I think when thinking about this question, our experience has been starting from the preparation phase, but also to some degree during the implementation of the project as well, is that these projects need to be established and gain traction within all parties of the BIOS group across different sets of departments. Often we speak of clinical needs. We have clinical buyers seeking solutions to clinical needs, but as well we need to involve procurement departments, finances, probably technical departments, and other organizationally internal stakeholders as well. So there are a lot of dialogues that need to be had, and a lot of people and departments that need to be involved and engaged throughout the project to keep everyone actively updated and making sure that they have this project in mind and are continuously engaged with it. I think that's been one of the main challenges that we've had.
Thank you very much, Magnus. Thank you. That would lead me to a follow-up question to Anna-Pia, who mentioned on one of your slides that the strong focus on the clinical need and not on technologies to be deployed by eventual suppliers. And that leads me to then I was asking myself, how should such a consortium look like? Are you looking for experts like clinicians, nurses that are also part of this consortium giving advice? Because who else beside the procurers should or do you expect to give advice? We have heard from Magnus what is asked for, and now this comes to the topic that is open.
Thank you. Well, I guess it's for applicants themselves to decide what the best consortium is, right? But just looking at the topic text and what was behind it, we wanted to keep it rather open. So therefore, it also means that the constituency that should be part of either the consortium, like which departments, maybe, for example, if it's dealing with anesthetics, which we know is a high amount of carbon footprint in a healthcare setting, then maybe you need to at least envisage some kind of dialogue or involvement of the anesthetics department, or, so I think it really does depend on which element, what the problem is and who you have to bring in. And then it's for the consortium to decide to what degree. Is it to involve them via an activity, or is it for them to be part of the team that will be in the consortium? So yeah, all is open. I know that's not really a very direct answer, but the message that I wanted to give is that in the testing, in the design, in the prototyping, and in the testing, and I think perhaps those that have been in a PC before have seen, it is important to get the voices of everybody who will then be having to use that solution, either in the testing phase, but already to get their voices in the discussions, in the solution design at an early phase. So yeah, don't know if that directly answers your question, but
it did indirectly, and I liked your example, so thank you very much. So that with the anesthetic gave a good example what has to be what applicants could think of. And I take it from what you also mentioned that you would like in the impact section then provide clear figures on the CO2 reduction emissions. So you really want to have facts there, I presume, and for our measurements, how measurable indicators, and for that you need these experts too. Is that correct?
Well, I think data is a very compelling argument to underline your justification of what it is that you want to do. So I understand that's not always the case, but I mean, one can write in the narrative section a lot of statements, but if they're substantiated by figures, I think that is obviously a stronger argument. Yeah, I think there are colleagues on the panel here who have been evaluators. They maybe perhaps can say a little bit more of what type of information should be in those sections to be more convincing and compelling to those expert evaluators.
That's a nice bridge to Sarah. Sarah, could you give some very short answer? I know you with your knowledge, you could say a lot, just maybe one or two examples. That would be very nice.
Sample on consortium composition.
No, on the impacts. What Anna Pia said now on what are you looking for on the quantifiable impacts that you need to achieve? As an example from, maybe you can lead on from the anesthetic example, just to keep a concrete example that makes it easier for the people.
Yeah, concerning impact are impact related to the economic aspect, the sectorial aspect, and the scientific one. So, if I think it will be useful to isolate, to find some KPIs, a small set of KPIs. We want to reduce, for example, CO2 emissions within this period of time. We want to strengthen competition, to have new players in these markets, to have an adoption of these solutions within a certain period of time. We want to be autonomy and more resilient to the energy consumption. We want to like this the time of the achievement of these KPIs is important, and to measure what is measurable. Not all has to be measured, of course. Or important aspect is to fix the cost and expenditure target. For I want to have savings. I want to have efficiency in this process, in this area. I want to depends on the need, but cost and environmental impact and time are three aspects that has to be defined.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was very clear. Thank you. I lead on to one more question to Lorena, and then a question to each of you, and then we open the rest of the time for the audience. So for Lorena, I would be interested, what mistakes would you avoid in the future? Because you mentioned the problematic points. And then for everyone to think about, and Magnus already produced some of these reasons, what main advice, give me in 1 or 2 sentences, advice to the future applicants, just 2 sentences, short and sweet, each from your perspective. But let's start with Lorena. From what mistakes would you avoid in the future, please?
Yes, I think that the key issues of success of the pre-commercial or the PCP as any other project is the focus on the scope of the project, and any problem, the solution of any problem is made of a mix of technical innovation, cultural and change management, and process change. The problem that could be solved by a PCP are problems where technical innovation has a crucial role. If in your problem the technical innovation has just a minor part, probably PCP cannot solve your problem, because the other component cannot vanify the innovation of the technological innovation. So well-defined and clear problem as argument of the PCP. This is my I think what I've learned from our experience. I will try to answer even to our other question. I think that another key success key is to focus on problem that you really feel as relevant for you. When you have you should have a real interest, a concrete interest in solving this problem, because in this case you are really able to evaluate the impact of the solution, in my opinion. Sasha, you are muted.
Thank you. Sorry about that. That brings it so nice to the slide that you showed, that one should focus on the problem and not on the solution that is already in the mind. So thank you. And Anna Pia would like to add on from that, I think.
Yeah, if I may, I'm sorry. I guess
Please.
seeing that it's a panel discussion, I feel compelled to jump in a little bit to compliment, because I think one of the key things, and I absolutely agree that identifying the problem is the most important aspect, and not only identifying it, but formulating it properly in your proposal, and showing that it's a common problem. But I think one of the unique features of the PCP is that the innovation is not in the technological solution, right? You need to demonstrate that it's innovative for what your need is. So to show that there is actually a gap that you need to procure these R&D services for. And you don't have to state what the solution is, that we've seen in sometimes has been quite problematic, but that it will transform or change how the hospital setting or the healthcare setting will work to be greener. And I think that's a mind shift really in what we mean in terms of innovation. And then I just wanted to clarify that the topic is written in a way that we're not excluding low-tech solutions if they haven't been thought of in this setting. So it doesn't have to, I mean, you know, as opposed to some previous PCPs where we were looking at really technological areas that are very at the forefront of what's going on in the research environment. Here we're looking at really changing the way that the healthcare provision sort of has emissions. So that can be a very low-tech solution, but that it isn't really implemented in a hospital setting, and that there need to be certain R&D activities to be able to make that shift. So it was just a further clarification, sorry.
That's very valuable, because we had some questions that we can't cover that was exactly on this aspect, and you covered that now as well. So thank you so much. So now to the others, who would like to start? A 2-sentence message to future applicants. Magnus, would you like to start? Or Sami, would you like to start? Or Liv, the people that spoke with less? Just start, because we have 4 minutes left.
Okay, so one practical recommendation: follow the template, follow the structure. I mean, you have all the instructions there and all the links to the different documents that you will need to prepare your application, and put yourself in the shoes of the evaluator. Make sure that you do reply to the questions that are in the template, and whenever you think that your approach can be questionable, just explain it, explain the rationale why you're going that way, and for those type of activities and for those type of choices.
Perfect, thank you. And may I add, this workshop was organized by the Health NCPs, and we're also here to help you, support you, that you really fill in the proposal template the way you should. Now, next person.
From my side, it's Lieve speaking. I would say, do apply. It may sound like a daunting task, a lot of work and whatever, and we know to prepare a proposal, but the success rates in the PCP calls are really good, so it's worth the effort. Do you have a burning problem that really needs a solution? Apply, apply, apply.
Very nice and short and sweet. Thank you. Next one.
Thanks. I could just add that and stress a bit more what I've already mentioned, but in our project, as I hope Lorena would also agree, it's been an incredible learning experience really throughout these years. And I think what has made us come through at the end has been to, even though we're not regulated by the Public Procurement Directive, we can really stick to the key principles of making sure that our process is fair, transparent, open, and also I think, curious when it comes to listening in to what can respond to the unmet needs that we have in preparing our proposals and in preparing launching our tenders as well.
Thank you. Also very clear. Thank you. So we have Sarah left and Anna Pia, I don't know. Yep.
Okay. My final recommendation would be to do not consider, is referred to the procurers mainly, do not consider yourself as unique. Avoid too much personalization in the description of the need. And in order to enable economies of scale and economies of scope, you are perfectly capable to conduce these kind of projects. Keep as simple as possible. The better projects are those who have a simple, clear, and not multi-variable definition of the problems. And the second one is avoid to copies or replicate previous projects because they have passed the evaluation. There is an evolution. The European Commission has been capable to make a revolution in innovating also the forms and the model of PCP. Today we see that there is the fast track, etc. This means that the project that has been presented 2-3 years ago are not necessarily successful. So try to be critical in considering the project. Not all the projects are successful, so be critical and start, because all the capacity are in the buyers.
Perfect. Very clear. Very, very clear. Thank you. Anna Pia, did you want to say one?
That's the last couple, one. Yep. And then I'll be very short. I think, please, all applicants, reread the topic text, because that is really the guiding principle of why this topic exists. And evaluators will look at that topic text and see what matches best. So keep on reading it, because sometimes in the drafting of a proposal, one can kind of, drift off in the brainstorm. The second thing is involve the right people. It's so important to make sure that your consortium and the people that you talk to within your team, if you're a partner or if you're a coordinator, are the right people for tackling the problem, and that you really understand it. So I think that's what Magnus mentioned earlier, and I think it's really important.
Thank you. So you got a lot of really important key messages. There is more questions on single issues, on technical issues. Are we allowed to send them to you, the ones that we can't answer the NCPs? Would that be okay? I take it as a yes. Thank you very much. So I don't know, Mikael, do we have time? I didn't see any question in the chat. Will we finish up that way, or if someone puts a question? There is actually in any call a single person eligible to apply as a procurer, or only legal entity is entitled to apply. It's always legal entities that apply. It's not single persons. Does anyone want to say something? That's the only question that came in during the panel.
Well, you can have natural. Sorry, I'm jumping in. You can have natural person that's applying to our calls. Those persons will need to be validated by our services for their financial capacity and so on. Obviously, they will have to demonstrate what is the added value in the consortium composition and what would be their role in the project.
Thank you, Sami. That's clear. I give the word back to Nicole, and Nicole put into the chat the survey. So for all of you, please answer the survey as critical as you can, that we all, panel members, speakers, organizers, can improve our services to the applicants. And I would like to say thank you so much to all the panel members that you were willing to run overtime, and thank you for sharing all your views. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thank you. Bye.
thank you
Thanks for
from my
inviting.
side. And it was really very vivid, interesting discussion. Thank you to all.
Thanks to you for the invitation.
So all the best to you and good luck.
Bye.